So before we pursue or begin with the topic, let's just have a recap on the last episode. So in the first episode, I've shared with you the learning modalities, and I was able to get these learning modalities from DepEd. Just last June 19, they released the DepEd order number 12. And I use this DepEd order because I would also want us to use the terms that are applicable here in the Philippines. And I shared with you 4 learning modalities. The first one is something that we are all familiar with if we send our children to school, meaning to say physically. So that means to say you are familiar with the face-to-face learning, and that means the teacher, okay, and the student are both inside the classroom, and that's face-to-face. And I think you will all agree with me when I say, personally, I am not for face-to-face right now because of the pandemic that we are experiencing. But I hopefully in the near future, from the first learning modality, which is face-to-face, we might be able to go or proceed to the second learning modality, which is the blended learning. And when we say blended, to blend, so it's a mixture of 2 learning modalities, which is the face-to-face. So that means during some of the days, our children will go to school, but then there are also some days wherein our children will still be learning from home. And when they are learning from home, we now go to the third learning modality or third learning mode, which is now the distance learning. Now, this one actually has subtypes, okay? However, in other countries, when we say distance learning, it's automatic for them that it's online distance learning, but that is not the case here in the Philippines. Some of you had, actually one had a question last meeting regarding students who are in far-flung areas. And under distance learning, we have modular distance learning, and this means to say the students need not to be online. So these are for those, okay, who cannot or who do not have access to internet connection. So when we say modular, it can be printed or digital. And when we say printed, the school can print the learning packets or the modules for the child or for the student, and the parent may go to the school to pick the modules or the learning packets, or the parents or the school, okay, have an option. The schools have an option to actually send it to the house of the student. So that's modular, the distance learning. Now, another one also is the TV or radio-based distance learning. And this means to say lessons, okay, pre-recorded lessons, maybe live also, it depends, can be viewed, okay, by the students via the television or can be heard via the radio. And lastly, under distance learning, we now have the online distance learning. Sometimes we say online learning, but when you read about it, online learning can actually mean that the students are in the classroom, okay, with the teacher, but they are learning with the use of the internet. So we would want to use the term online distance learning or ODL. And when we talk about ODL, this now means that the student, okay, should have an access to the internet. And some of you might think, paano na yun? Okay, does it mean to say that my child should be online all the time? So kung ang anak ko nagsuschool siya or pumapasok siya ng, for example, 7:30 to 2:30 or 3 o'clock, dapat ba online yung bata during that time? And the answer here now is it's not necessarily the case, because under ODL or online distance learning, we have 2 types again, which is the synchronous, meaning to say synchronous, in sync, sabay-sabay, okay, and the asynchronous. And under synchronous, this means that, or it can actually mean live. So that means to say sabay-sabay na mag-online yung mga bata, yung mga students, si teacher naka-online din. And during this time, pwedeng video sessions ang mangyayari, okay? Or also, because again, maybe the internet is not stable, it can also be online, but then again, synchronous, but then again, via chat. Okay, so nagtatype yung mga bata, dun sila nag-uusap, or pwede namang audio lang. But again, under synchronous, live, okay, or sabay-sabay na nag-aaral or pumapasok, okay, if I may say the term, if I may use the term, yung mga bata. And then we go back to the question nga of mommies and daddies na, so dapat ba online sila all throughout the day? So the answer here is no, if the school will use another type, okay, of online distance learning, which is now asynchronous. Ang asynchronous, okay, will still use the internet, but then again, si teacher, okay, papadala siya ng lesson, okay, pwedeng worksheet or pwedeng project na kailangan gawin, but it does not mean to say na sabay-sabay yung mga magkaka-classmates or yung students na gagawin yun. Ang mangyayari is, pag available na yung bata, okay, because the child needs help from an adult, a parent, okay, or a guardian, dun na yung time na kung saan gagawin ng student yung task. Kaya asynchronous. So, and then this is possible, okay, maybe during later. So usually baka pwedeng 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock na in the afternoon. Unlike before, when we do face-to-face learning, ang school, it ends at around 2:30 or 3 or sometimes half day. And then lastly, we now have the homeschooling. So I've emphasized this, no? If you've enrolled your son or daughter in a school, it's best for us not to use the term homeschooling. Kasi ang homeschooling, ang teacher, ikaw ang teacher. So that means to say, kung may teacher yung anak mo, so online distance learning or distance learning, ang learning mode that your son or your daughter will engage for the next school year. So I hope I was able to clear the different types of learning modalities so that now I can move on to some practical tips that I am actually doing or following also. And I hope this is going to be something that you can use as well. And I encourage you to all fellow parents out there, so please do share those tips that you have, because I would love to hear that as well. I would love to read that, and I'm sure also all the viewers today would want to check out the tips that you have.